It's the Dark Reading News Desk. I'm Terry Sweeney, contributing editor to Dark Reading. I am joined now by Michael Coates, the CEO and co-founder of Altitude Networks. Michael, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Terry. Happy to be here.
As organizations embrace SaaS software and all the increased productivity it delivers, how are they wrapping their arms around the attending security issues that come with it?
The world of SaaS is pretty exciting. It's disrupting the way companies operate. It's empowering individuals inside those companies to share documents with each other, with the world, with third parties. And that's pretty amazing. You see fast-moving companies outpacing their competition as a result. The challenge of those things is that same ease of use turns into a security challenge.
Sure.
Yeah, and so you can imagine, just like I could share it with the right people, I could make some mistakes and share it with the wrong people. So it's really an interesting challenge now of how do we think about integrated security into these platforms so that we make sure that that most important information is in fact not shared with the wrong people or the wrong individuals.
Okay. What's your sense of the best place to place that protection? Is it with the app? Is it with the data? Somewhere in the cloud? Somewhere on the premises?
I think what we're seeing is a bit of a shift from on-prem mentality and the new cloud world. And so a lot of the things that have worked on-prem are fine and continue to work as they have. But with the shift to cloud, you recognize you have an infrastructure layer, and you're thinking about AWS GCP security, and you have a SaaS application layer. And with those products like G Suite, Box, 365, you need to move your security as close as you can into them.
Sure.
Because overall, the platforms themselves provide good capabilities, but we're really thinking about that last element on the human, and when does a human make a mistake or become malicious? And so yeah, to your question, I think you go as close to the data as you can.
Okay. Our viewers may not know that you're the former CISO for Twitter. I imagine during your tenure there, you faced the challenge of balancing employee productivity with securing company-sensitive data and the potential drag that may be on productivity. How do you balance that? How do you manage that conundrum?
It's a great question, and I think the world of security is shifting, and I was fortunate enough to experience it through Twitter, through my time at Mozilla. The fact is companies want to move fast, and doing so can empower them to build the best products, move them to market quickly. As security practitioners and professionals, we have to realize that this old mentality of doing checkpoints and gates and hard stops that funnel all the activity through isn't really the future.
Okay.
Yeah, the future is all about how do you build security into either the software development lifecycle or the tools and technologies that you're using. So back to our thinking around the cloud, you've got to build that straight into those platforms that you're using all the time.
So I think it's fair to say that Twitter is a bit of a special case, but with the CISOs that you're talking to now as part of Altitude Networks, do you find the same pain points emerging from your conversations with them?
I do. The reality is that companies want to empower their employees to do what they need to do to get their job done, and they don't want to be seen as security big brother, always stopping to say, hey, are you sure you want to do this or that, or let's double check, or let's follow this long set of steps. Instead, they'd actually like to work with the employees to create an environment where everyone's working together. And when something goes horribly wrong or about to, the security controls are there to go ahead and protect that data or that system.
Well, say more about how Altitude is leveraging innovation to improve the situation here.
So I was recently at Twitter, as we discussed moments ago, and that's where I saw that there's just this need. We need to think about cloud applications and their data security in there. And that led to the forming of Altitude Networks. My background for 15 years in the security space, my co-founder, PhD Stanford, coming out of the data science space, we thought, hey, we can actually integrate into these platforms. We can understand the data. We can understand the security properties of every file, the actions, the metadata, everything going on, and then begin to analyze that to find the specific needles in the haystack that matter to a company.
Okay.
And so now when you talk about a file being changed or being switched into link mode, shared to the world, or shared to a personal account instead of the work account, all of those very nuanced actions, we can discover those immediately and give a centralized place where companies can remediate that issue. And I'll have to tell you, the thing that's really catching on is this notion of insider threat and offboarding. When someone leaves the company right now, you cut their work account, but you don't know that they have hundreds of files accessible via their personal account that's been purposely or accidentally strewn about.
Right.
And that's one of the things that is really compelling we're finding in almost every deployment right now.
Wow. So with cloud-based apps, with cloud-based networking, this is forcing some changes to traditional security management models. What does that look like in 2020?
I think what it looks like is a realization of what the threat is. And right now, when you look at the advancement of cloud with enterprise use, you have some very real and very scary realities. You know,
Okay.
with one click, an individual could take the board deck and share it to a personal account instead of the work account. Your salary documents could be shared to the whole company, or maybe you have a situation where someone's downloading lots of information because they're leaving the company, so you have insider threat. All of those situations, you need to have the security controls that detect that at the moment it's happening and give you the ability to either automatically respond or have somebody dive in deeper. But if we don't have that integrated approach that works at scale, that's where things start to fall apart. And that's some stuff I ran into very directly at Twitter, that thinking of scale and speed.
So that would also seem to alter the relationship to risk that most companies have. Cloud jumbles that equation. What does the new equation look like?
The biggest thing about risk consideration is approaching it from the classic confidentiality, integrity, availability, the CIA.
Okay.
And thinking about in those platforms, what data do you have, and of course, what risks does that pose to your organization? While doing that, being aware that there's this delineation of responsibility. The cloud providers don't solve all security challenges. You know, the Googles, the Amazons, the Microsoft, in their cloud apps, in their cloud infrastructure, they give you good security controls. Like their access control lists work perfectly. But when the humans come into that, who they assign access to, how they open up files, that's where it becomes your responsibility.
Right.
So when you're thinking about risk management over these systems, you have to be aware of, well, what areas are you responsible for and how are you going to do that? Not just point in time, but at continuous scale.
Let's close out by talking about some of the other security concerns that you see on the horizon.
As we've dove into protecting data in this new paradigm, the thing that we found that's really interesting is that humans can make mistakes or be malicious with documents, or they can authorize applications on their behalf. And so while it may be nice to authorize a business app, some sort of document signature app or productivity app, those same employees authorize other things like a Candy Blocks app or a Age My Face app.
Right.
And so suddenly these unknown applications have been given access to corporate data and email. And right now this is just a hidden beast. People don't realize how many different systems by unknown developers have full access to parts of their data on their enterprise. And that's one of the things we're beginning to explore and just launched some support for.
Wow, that's nervous making.
Yes, unfortunately, the world of security can be a little bit, nerve-inducing. But we try and put all of that into the spin and the element of helping embrace and empower the company.
All right. Michael, thank you for the insights into application security and how the cloud is poised to help us and hurt us.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Michael Coates of Altitude Networks. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us.